Delivering good service internally and externally is about building long-lasting relationships which have greater long-term impact as well. But do cracks start to show at times like this, and how do you transform an organisation's service culture? Joining us now is author Jaquie Scammell to discuss more. How are you doing?
Really well.
Did I pronounce your surname correctly?
Scammell.
Scammell? I wasn't sure I was going to take a punt, but I always like to get it right.
Thanks for asking.
This is a really difficult time to get customer service right and human behaviour right. I was at Bunnings yesterday, and you can't get near anybody, obviously, so it seems to be just get them in, get them out.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people understand that at the moment, though I was at Kmart on the weekend and saw a fight between a man who was angry that he had to keep his distance from everybody. It's a strange time for customer service.
It sure is, and service is an emotional labour, you know, it always has been, and even more so now. So I think that both customers and employees are having to work through this and realise that the basic human qualities of kindness, care, great listening, understanding, this stuff is so critical right now, those soft skills, yeah.
Yeah, and the woman, the poor young girl at Kmart who was copping it on the receiving end, basically because they've shut down every second self-check service, so the queues are much longer than normal, and this man wasn't happy about that. The way she handled herself was magnificent. I couldn't believe she was so nice. I would have told him to get stuffed.
Yeah.
But people, and I walked out and I thought, I wonder how much longer niceties will exist in customer service until it literally is, look mate, get out. This is a time where people are really under the pump, facing a lot of pressure, a lot of uncertainty, and yet for a lot of businesses, it's also a time to shine.
Yeah, it is. And I think anyone right now can be a service hero, you know, customer or, you know, service professional. I think we can all role model what's needed. And you know, one of my key messages is around, you know, what underpins extraordinary service is when people are extraordinarily present. So now's the time for us to get out of our heads, look at what's in front of us, look at who's in front of us, and be really present and make good judgment calls and common sense based on being in the moment. And now's the time. We're being asked to really look at what's in front of us. We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. We can't control the future. We're being told to do this and do that. And I think service in many ways could be a catalyst to help transform some mindsets and attitudes for people that maybe are more grateful to have jobs these days.
Yeah, and also to be still in business, to be running a business, to have customers still being able to walk through the door, because it feels like at any moment we could enter the next stage, which is all business closed, and the only people who are allowed on the roads are the emergency services personnel trying to get to work. Yeah. So you have that aspect of, there seems to be a gratefulness to have a job, as you mentioned. What were the trends that we were seeing leading up to this crisis? Because typically, Australians have never been great at customer service compared to when you go on holiday to an Asian nation, for example, and everyone is just willing to be there. And it could also be that thankfulness to have a job. We in Australia feel quite entitled.
Yeah, we do. And I think our labour rate has got something to do with that. You know, we are paid fairly well in this country comparatively.
We don't work on tips, for example. We don't have to smile to our customers. We just expect the cash.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that depending on different industries and where we see professional service happening, you do get a tone of entitlement that does come through. I'd love this to be a bit of a wake-up call for service, and I think, you know, you touched on people being more grateful for jobs going forward. Hopefully, pre-COVID, the service culture that we've seen transforms, and people realise that, you know, service is more important than ever right now.
Give us a definition of good service, because we think about just customer service and a smiley face and how are you, or if it's your barista, they hopefully care enough about you to remember your order, for example. But give us a few more examples.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all expect great price, great quality and convenience, no matter what we're buying, product or service. The key that sets the good from great is when people have an emotional connection with you. So it might be that they remember your name, or they might make great eye contact, their use of body language, deep listening, pausing and letting the customer speak. You know, one of the things that every single human has in common is that we all desire the need to be seen, the need to be heard, and the need to be understood. And so if you can nail that in a 1-minute transaction or a 1-hour conversation in service, then I believe you're delivering extraordinary service.
It also quite often leads to the customer being a little bit more understanding next time if your queues are a bit longer, or if you have a mad rush. For example, there's a cafe near my house I go to in East Melbourne. The staff are lovely, the owner's wonderful, and sometimes I go there and the queues are out the door, but I still wait because I have that relationship with them, and you want to help their business. And to find customers who are willing to help your business rather than to treat you as just a supply point is, I guess, the holy grail, right?
Absolutely, and I feel like there's a sense of loyalty is really kicking in at the moment. We're hearing a lot of conversations about support your local cafes. I rang my local hairdresser and beautician just a few days ago as a customer, checking in to say, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And I think that my loyalty to them is just amplified, and I'm sure I'm not alone.
That is a great point, because we talk about customer service as if it's a one-way conversation. But we as customers can also play we do play probably the biggest part in it, where we have to move away from expectation, which I think is another Australianism that we come to expect, that when we are handing over money, we get exactly what we want, to being a little bit more understanding, particularly at times like now.
Yeah, you're spot on. And like I said before, I think consumers can really role model what's expected, and I kind of feel like there's a real equaliser happening at the moment. And maybe that separation of who's on what side of the counter. You know, I'm the barista and you're the customer, vice versa. Maybe we're all just looking at each other a bit more like the same.
I think when we've seen people that we greatly respect and admire and put on pedestals rushing out for toilet paper, it maybe might be the thing that has been the great equaliser, when we all realise that we are all just human after all. I think the toilet paper rush was fantastic for human society, to remind ourselves that we're all in this together, and you could be rich or poor, but it gives you no greater access to some of the simplest things in the world.
That's it. And one of the reasons why I'm really passionate about service habits as language is because I think at each moment of the day we can all sort of go up and down in our emotions. And this is a real practice. Like, I have good moments and bad moments, and I teach this stuff, you know. So I think that we have to just continually remember we're all doing the best we can, but it's a practice of staying in the moment, remembering there's a human in front of you, and right now they're hurting or they're frustrated.
And a lot of business owners aren't getting much sleep at the moment. They're panicked, they're petrified. A lot of staff are going through the same thing. A lot of customers are going through the same thing. They may have been employed yesterday at your cafe today because they've got nothing else to do. They're waiting on hold on Centrelink to try and get through. This is a great equaliser, as you say, but also a time where expectations are now being shown the door, because you never know what the person on the other side is going through.
Spot on, spot on. And it is emotional, and just remembering that, you know, we're all doing the best we can, and maybe even taking the word customer out and just thinking about service as human to human. Yeah.
The other thing as well is the difference between big business and small business at a time like that. How do you see it? Because you would think that, given that a lot of people, particularly working in big business, are now working from home for the first time, so a lot of those people are now trying to adapt, trying to figure out how they've gone from being in an office environment to working from home, connecting with each other as well as customers. You could find yourself as a customer being treated as a colleague because they're communicating with you the same way as they're communicating with the rest of the team. These are unprecedented times.
Spot on, and it's like all of a sudden everyone's in each other's lounge rooms.
Yes.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
Tracy Grimshaw's bedroom. Who thought we'd end up there?
And you see their kids and their dogs. I mean,
dog,
it's
the
hilarious.
bare feet presenter. I mean, there you go. Imagine the Channel 9 wardrobe department when Tracy rocks up with no shoes. You could just imagine what was going on there. Anything that COVID-19 would be nothing compared to that going on. But it's a time where we can also, because we've been blasted out of our status quo, the lessons after this will be so interesting to watch as people get back to their day-to-day lives. I wonder whether it will be a gradual return to normal or whether things have just shifted and our reliance on technology is now permanent.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if the things that needed to be shifted are shifted permanently? And I think everyone's got their own definition of what that looks like.
I'm too much of an optimist here, I think. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, I mean, for example, mindsets, attitudes, which is a big part of service and drives a lot of big companies' culture from the top right the way through. I'm doing a lot of work behind the scenes at the moment with just helping staff serve themselves. To your point, you know, they're working from home, how are you taking care of yourself, and just adapting, because really service is a reflection of the relationship you have with yourself. So if we're not coping, we're not calm, we're not in a great sort of positive mindset, that's going to transmit, to the customers you're serving. So I think we all have a responsibility to really serve ourselves at the moment, take care of ourselves. And I'm just wondering whether, something as globally massive as what we're experiencing now can put a spotlight on that for some people and show them what's really important.
My tip from working from home is get up Netflix or one of the streaming services, find a show that you want to binge watch on that you might have seen before, a comedy for example, and only answer emails after you've watched an episode, and then go and watch another episode. And you might have half-hour responses delayed, but at least you've got time to think, as opposed to just banging them out in a huge concentrated method. But anyhow, that's enough of that. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're most
really
welcome.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having
Great
me.
to talk. Absolutely.